So I'll just speak really for a couple more minutes, and that is I wanted to share what I think are goals at Centre Colleges very broadly. And the first is to provide an outstanding and what I consider to be a world-class education for our students that not only prepares them for a job, but prepares them for jobs that haven't even been invented yet, right? A liberal arts college where students are learning such a variety of skills and competencies that it will map onto things in the future. And I firmly believe a liberal arts education prepares us for that. My brother was an English major at a liberal arts college, very similar to Centre. He's a surgeon. So it works out very well that way, and you will find some of the most talented and caring faculty around at Centre College. Your students will share some pretty astounding stories about the experiences they're having, the research that they're doing. It's awe-inspiring. The second goal is to challenge and support your students in order to grow them toward autonomy. Right? To challenge and support your students in order to grow them toward autonomy. The support part is actually the easy part. And President Moreland just talked about student success coaches. We have orientation leaders. We have RAs. We have, who are your resident assistants. We have resident directors. We have staff. We have counselors. We have nurses. That's not the hard part. The hard part is in the challenge, right? I don't know about you, but I'm guessing a lot of you are Gen X, right? Born 65 to 1980. I don't want you to have to out yourself, but I'm a Gen X, right? Think about your childhood. Think about, when you were 12. We rode our bikes all over the place, and nobody knew where we were, right? Nobody knew where we were. Nobody called us. Nobody used their iPhone to track our location. And we probably did some crazy things where we're like, oh, it was all okay. Mom never knew we visited the dump that day. This generation is really, really different. And there are a lot fewer skinned knees and a lot fewer bruises and bang-ups than we had when we were younger. We were free range, and you just kind of figured it out, and that's how it went. And now, for this generation of students, parents and families are judged on how involved they are with their students' experience by their peers through high school. And then in college, we start telling you to, back off. And I firmly believe it is not letting go at all. Your students still need you, but it's redefining that relationship. And that means we've sent you a lot of emails over the summer about preparing for adjustment to college, and it means having important conversations about communication and boundaries and money and safety. But more than anything, my single ask for you, and I've been doing this about 30 years, and I don't think that this has ever changed over 30 years, is for you to allow your student to be uncomfortable at times. They have to figure out how to mobilize internal resources to cope with problems and conflict. And that gives them such a great feeling of achievement and agency to say, I have a problem and I solved it. And I know that sometimes the instinct is, I will call that Vice President Barbara LoMonaco, extension 5143, and I will tell her that my student's roommate is eating her yogurt. I'm not making that up. Those are real calls, and I don't mean to shame you, but that happens. And then it's always followed with, don't tell her I'm calling you. And in all seriousness, it's not really fair for us to get in the middle of your relationship with your family, right? So the best thing that you can say to your student, they will be disappointed in college. I can promise you that. There will be disappointing experiences, disappointing friendships, classes that are tough. I didn't get chosen for something. I'm lonely. I miss my dog. I hope you can help us normalize that, right? Change is hard. Let's normalize it. It doesn't need to become, I tell students often, there's a difference between having anxiety as a chronic condition, which is very real, but then there's also just being anxious, because this is an anxious situation, right? It's the unknown. And so if we can normalize that, the best thing that you can tell your student when they call about the yogurt or something serious is to say, who do you think you could talk to on campus about this? Or how do you think you can problem solve this? Your tendency may be to jump in, but to give them the freedom to be able to solve those things themselves is how growth happens. And again, we want to grow students toward autonomy. So that's my biggest ask for you. We have so many people on campus who really are experts in the college experience, and you will meet them in the upcoming session, and again, there'll be Q&A. You don't have to apologize for, oh, I'm sorry to be a helicopter. Every time you have a question, it's new for you too. But I think that that's sort of allowing a student to be uncomfortable, to live with ambiguity, and to know that not everything is a quick fix, not everything is a quick solution. The hardest things you have done in your lives were based, you got through them, not through talent, but through persistence, right? Those mornings when it's just one foot in front of the other until it gets better. And that's a tough thing for this generation of students. It really is, where everything is quick on social media, or your phone is slow and you lose your mind. Oh, it's taking 2 seconds to load this page. So help us help your students to develop those sets of skills. So that's all I have to say for now, but I am very excited to introduce our Vice President for Academic Affairs and the Dean of the College, Dr. Ellen Goldey.
Part of me just wants to say ditto to all of that. It is an honor to be here. I enjoyed this morning welcoming some of the folks that were moving into Atchison and Cheeks and Evans and Yerkes, and I hope it was a good experience for you. I certainly sensed the joy, the anxiety, the trepidation, all jumbled together, and mostly the love. And we know that you love your young person that you just dropped off today. And it's going to be hard to say goodbye, but thank you for trusting us to take good care of them, to educate them, to challenge them, but also to support them. So one of the things that I wanted to talk with you about is a little bit about what those support systems look like, especially on the academic side of the house. But academics, student life, athletics, we are working together and collaborating in ways that we're really proud of, and we're doing it better every year. And so you're really coming in at a time when we have made some major changes in how we support students. So I want to tell you a few of those things. First and foremost, since I represent that academic side of the house, I want to pay tribute to the faculty. These are teacher scholars. These are people that have the terminal degrees in their field, whether that's the PhD or a Master's of Fine Arts degree. They are top-notch scholars, and the reason that they chose Central College to spend their careers is because they also love working with students. They love teaching. So they bring their scholarship, they bring their research, they bring their art, they bring their theater performance into the classroom in ways that I think are pretty profound. Our faculty members also serve as the main advisor, the academic advisor for your students. So your student has a designated faculty member that has a group of about 10 students that they are primarily responsible for really troubleshooting, setting up that course schedule, meeting with the student if they've missed a couple of classes and there's a little notification that goes in. That advisor will call that student in and say, let's talk about that. How come you're missing class? All right, so we've got that as a sort of a first tier of student support. I need to tell you too that with the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, which is often known by its acronym FERPA, we're not allowed to tell you how your student is doing academically. That would violate the FERPA laws. So as adults, as young people, your child is responsible for telling you how they're doing as they so choose. All right, so that's the first step into adulthood. You gotta let go of knowing exactly what grade they got on each test and exam. we're keeping track of it. We're keeping an eye on it. We're meeting with the student. But ask, support, but know that if we talk to you about a student and how they're doing in a class, that student has to be sitting there with you. So when you ask how they're doing, send that email to a professor. I know my child was really worried about that exam, how'd they do? We're not allowed to tell you. It's not that we don't want to. But talk to the student, all right? Ask them how they're doing. The next structure that we have in place to really support students' academic success is called FYC, Finding Your Center. I'm sure you've heard some about that already. So this was put into place just a few years ago. We actually implemented it during COVID, of all things, because we really thought, wow, students are coming in with some situations that they're not used to, and we want them to be prepared for college. So they learn a lot in there about how to study, how to budget their time. So do me and all of us a favor of supporting what students are learning in FYC. If your student complains about FYC, why don't you ask them what they learned? Well, what was the topic this week? What did you learn about? Tell me about it. One of the things they'll learn about is growth mindset. Most of you have probably heard of it, but do we all practice it the way that we should? If you've ever said something like, well, honey, I understand I can't do math either, you're not demonstrating a growth mindset. So we want our students to be able to build the capacity to open their minds up enough to learn. Everybody can learn more math than they ever knew before. That's all we ask students to learn. We don't expect them to know everything when they get here, but we do expect them to learn and sometimes have to work a little harder at it than maybe a peer or classmate. We also have what's called the Center Learning Commons, and you'll see some displays and tabling out there. And the Center Learning Commons was also put into place right during COVID. And we now have a staff, Brian Casado, who was actually the interim dean at one point, is the director of the Center Learning Commons. Karen Tubb is our expert in Navigate and also is based in that Center Learning Commons, and I'll explain Navigate here in just a second. When you go to Center Learning Commons, you can also stop and get a bagel at Einstein's. So it's set up pretty well. Center Learning Commons offers peer tutoring. Almost every academic department, every academic program offers peer tutoring. I encourage your student, if they are already feeling a little anxious about something, talk to them about the fact that there are peer tutors that can help them. It's free, right? We pay for those peer tutors to help your student. There's a writing center. If your student is a little worried about writing that first paper, tell them to go to the writing center. It is directed by one of our English professors. She does a great job training the peer mentors that work in the writing center, so they don't have to feel intimidated that they're getting help from a professor and they might not feel comfortable. These are students that are excellent writers and have been trained to help a student with their writing. They're not going to write the paper for them, but they will give them the support that they need. The Center Learning Commons also helps students develop personal study plans. If they know that there's maybe a little bit of anxiety, that might be a good way to set up a one-on-one appointment. They also offer some workshops throughout the year, and I won't go into detail about that, but I encourage you to touch base with their table out there. Brian also wanted to be sure that I mentioned that he oversees accessibility services. And so if your student has some neurodiverse type of learning issue, don't let them hide that now. I taught biology for 20 years at Wofford College. Almost always after the first exam, there would be some student who didn't do as well on that exam as they might have that comes to me and says, well, you know, I always had time and a half in high school because I've been diagnosed with ADHD. I can't do anything about it then, all right? So please, if your student needs to have some type of accommodation, please don't let them hide that and set up an appointment with Brian Casado. And again, the CLC table is out there and Brian will be there. We have something called the CARE team. The care team is directed by Mary Goldey, assistant dean in my office, and the dean of students, Kendrick Durham. They oversee a team of 13 people that meet weekly to figure out what support a student needs that's having maybe some kind of a crisis, maybe not showing up for class, maybe not completing their assignments. And it's sort of a tiered approach. Maybe they're really having a real crisis, right? Maybe something's happened at home, they broke up with their loved one that they left behind or went off to a different college. There's a lot of stuff that goes on here early. If there is that crisis, we have a system set up that we use software called Navigate, where anybody at the college, students, faculty, staff, can send a student of concern report. That goes to this care team. The care team will act immediately, depending on the level of the crisis, or plan something over a course of a few days. If it might be that, okay, let's first have them meet with their coach, let's have them meet with their academic advisor. So it depends on the situation, but rest assured, it's really hard for any student's problems to fall through the cracks here. We need your help with that too. If you think that your child is having a real serious struggle and it's not feeling like it's just we're normalizing this, please reach out and let us know. All right, any member of the care team, you can contact me. I'm sure that Barbara's members of her team are ready to add that student to the care team's work. We also use Navigate to tell students when they're doing a good job. We actually were profiled in the company's magazine recently that Center College has done the best job in giving kudos to students through Navigate. We're going to keep that up too. Sometimes you need a pat on the back when things are going well. We have individuals in athletics, in the Learning Commons. We have a specialist that's just working with all of our first generation students. We have a remarkable number of students who are representing their family as the first member in their family to come to college. We're really proud of that. We want to be sure that they have the support they need. Those students who don't have a family member who's been to college before sometimes are afraid to ask for help. We need you to encourage them to get the help that they need. I've had a first generation student who didn't know what a syllabus was. Didn't know that office hours, that faculty office hours are not for the faculty member to sit in their office and do their work. It's a time when students are invited to come and get help from that faculty member. So let's be sure that we communicate well, that you know, and if a student has any question, if they ask you a question and you don't know the answer, reach out. Have them reach out first. But if you're still concerned, reach out to us. So here's some things that you can do to help us. As has already been stated, normalize the mix of anxiety with regular study, self-reflection. This is a growth phase. 4 years, as Milton was underscoring, 4 years to grow up and become the person that your child always has wanted to be. And to me, it's sort of like the best witness protection plan. Yes, it's also an opportunity to start being the person that you've always wanted to be. So if your child is shy, encourage them to shift in ways that they can risk reaching out more, smiling more, meeting a new friend, studying with a classmate, encouraging them to develop study buddies within their peer groups. Study can be fun that way. It really can, and I didn't figure that out until my senior year in college. That's sad. All right, let's see if we can get them started off right. The Navigate app that I mentioned before actually has a study buddy connector. If somebody's reaching out for a study buddy, that's a good way to find somebody if your student doesn't feel like they know anybody. I don't know anybody, Mom. Well, every other student is feeling that way too. Encourage the idea that academic success in particular is going to be like having a full-time job. The general rule of thumb across higher education is that it's about 2 hours of study for every hour in class. Classes meet 3 hours a week typically. Now we got 6 hours just for that class. So have them start adjusting from what may not have been their common practice in high school. Check on them, see how they're studying. The biggest pitfall for students is that they start studying the week before the exam instead of the 4 weeks before the exam. Or, worst case scenario, the night before exam. Dr. Goldey, you don't understand, I studied 8 hours for this test. And I asked him, when was that? Well, that was last night between, about 10 p.m. and 4 o'clock this morning when I finally fell asleep. So, help them develop some maybe better habits than they've had before. And if your child has good habits, has been a rock star studier all through high school, applaud that, but help them, encourage your student then to reach out to another student who might be struggling to manage that time. And they can be study buddies. You can be that peer tutor without being recognized yet. The next semester we'll rope in your child to be a peer tutor. So I think that what I want you to really take away from this is that we care. I'm teaching a class for the first time in about 8 years since I've become an administrator. I'm going to be teaching a bio-senior seminar. And I'm really excited. I have missed being with students. Like every faculty member here, we do love what we do. So encourage your child to get to know their faculty members. Stick around or come early to class or maybe stick around for a little bit after class, ask questions. How did you end up becoming a dean? Or how did you end up becoming the vice president of student life? I thought you were an anthropologist, right? We all have stories. We were all students once. We know how it feels. There's a lot of empathy. So trust that we're going to do our best to take care of your child, and let me know if you think we ever screw up. I want to know, all right? So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Ann Goodwin, who's going to tell you how much she cares and takes care of our students.
Hi, how are you all doing? Everybody need to stretch? You got enough of that this morning? It's pretty hot, right? Welcome, if somebody hasn't had a chance to say that to you yet. We've been waiting. We're really excited to have you all here today. I got to meet some of you this morning, carrying in some boxes. But I'm the Associate Dean of Student Wellbeing and the Director of Counseling. And I'm going to share with you about some of our wellness resources that we have on our campus. This has become a real priority in our college. It's in our strategic plan. We're really focusing on well-being of students. And I parented a kid through COVID too, so we all know that this is something that's become more and more important over the past few years. So I wanted to start with telling you a little bit about our student health services. We have an on-campus health clinic. It's located in Parsons Center for Student Health and Counseling, which is across the street from the current swim pool, next to the football stadium. And the staff includes a physician's assistant, 2 nurses, one of which is the director, and administrative assistant. They're open Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 4, and students are seen by appointment there. Physicians are available to see students in the morning, and they come in about 4 mornings a week. And this is where students can go for evaluation and treatment of minor illnesses and injury, as well as a variety of prevention issues. And if they need help finding people off campus, they'll be happy to help them there too. We also have free counseling on campus. We have a really amazing counseling team. There's 4 licensed mental health counselors and a graduate intern who helps us with some of the easier issues. And it's free, so that's the important part, I guess, to hear. We're also located with Student Health in the Parsons Center for Student Health and Counseling. And we do see a lot of students. So remembering that's free, remembering this is a big transition, all of the challenge and support that we just heard about. Last year we saw 27% of the student body, so that's about 1 in 4. So the students coming to counseling remember, it's free, third time I said it, but also that it's that a lot of students use that resource, and we encourage people to use it, and a lot of times it's just for a time or two. The average number of times is they come in is 7. And they can come in for anything. They can come up for because they miss you, which really is a true thing of why some students come in. It could be a breakup. They could be having a hard time adjusting. Their roommate could be eating their yogurt. But also the more serious things, we do deal with depression and anxiety and eating disorders, and if they're the victim of any kind of violence, then we're support for that too. We see students by appointment, but we also have what's called same-day sessions because we found in the world of higher ed, students need to be seen quickly. If you tried to get a counseling appointment recently, it can take up to about 2 weeks. That won't work in this setting. A lot of crashing can happen in 2 weeks, so we try to get students in the day they contact us or the next day. So if they're saying they can't get in, they need to call because that's probably not what's going on. They might be a little uncomfortable about coming in, but we can usually get them in very quickly. We also have an after-hours mental health crisis line that's staffed by our counselors. So we know that if something on campus is happening, just know that counseling staff from our college is here to help folks. And then the other thing to mention, which is kind of referenced with FERPA, but since we are licensed mental health counselors, it's confidential, which can be hard as a parent, especially when you're away and want to know how your student is doing. You can always call and we'll support and talk you through it, but we may not be able, we won't be able to share information without a release of information. So we hear you and know that that can be really hard, but it's also something that's required and it's important. And then I also wanted to talk about one of our newest resources. We have just launched in the past year our Office of Health Promotion. And this is, all these folks are going to be out at the services fair, so you'll have a chance to meet staff from all of these offices. This office is working to embed wellness spaces across campus, is providing education and training about well-being to our students, and creating fun events that promote wellness without them knowing sometimes. So we're really excited about that. This year, for the first time, we're going to have a functional fitness room, which is a thing with a bench and weights, in some of the residence halls. We have a yoga room in a residence hall, and we have a sensory studying room for neurodiversity in one of the residence halls too. We're also getting hammock stands set up across campus, so lots of cool stuff going on in that regard. For the fun events, it's like sunset yoga on the 50-yard line, which is kind of fun, or stuffing a pillow and learning about healthy relationships. And then also part of the task of that office is to work on education and prevention around things like substance misuse and consent, which are important topics for students to be thinking about, especially at this age. And I also wanted to make sure to mention a resource named Ann Young. If you are familiar with Center College, you've probably come across Ann Young before. Her role has shifted. She's the Assistant Dean of Student Wellbeing. And she's charged with helping connect students to resources on campus and off campus. So if you're like, I remember all those people talking about resources, but I don't know where the student should start, she's a great starting point to help folks find what they need either on campus or sometimes if you have to go into the community. And she'll be out at the services fair as well. So that's about the resources. I just wanted to give a little anecdote, if that's okay, before I step down. This past week, my youngest daughter started high school, so it was a big, not as big as you all, but it was a big week in our house too. But when I first started working in the mental health field, it was before I had children. And so I remember that after my first daughter was born, about 2 weeks later, I was going to a family reunion with about 120 of my closest relatives, right? And I was in full, like, mama bear mode. And so, as I was preparing for this reunion, I got out a Milby. I don't know if you guys know what a Milby is. It's a really long cloth that you have to look up on Google how to use it, and you strap your child to you in this really complicated knot where they're attached to your body, right? Anyway, it's very complicated to use. That's the only time I used it. And one of the relatives was watching me, and they're like, "What are you doing? Everybody's going to want to hold that 2-week-old baby." And I was like, no one's touching this baby, right? And so when I went back a couple weeks later, well, 12 weeks exactly, to return to my job of providing mental health services with families, I just remember that moment when that first parent came in with their child, right? And they were asking for help. I can't remember what it was about. It was a divorce or something changed in their lifestyle. The kid was having a hard time. And I just remember being really overcome with humility. That person was trusting me with their child. And so I just wanted to share that today because I feel like I carry that, and our team that you're meeting and will meet carry that with them as we work with your children, that we really appreciate the trust that you're putting in us to support them through this big life transition. Hopefully it's clear to you as you meet us all that we really do love what we do. I think this is incredibly important. We love this stage of life. The world's opening right up, right? They're getting out of their comfort zone. They're like dragging you out of your comfort zone. And as you're sending them into adulthood, which is the goal, we're also providing them with an anchor of love, and you're working on that parent, evolving that relationship to a parent of an adult. Thank you. I'm going to pass this along to Kevin Milby, who's the Director of Public Safety, to share with you about those resources.
Good afternoon. I am Kevin Milby. I'm Director of Public Safety here at Center, and I'm starting my 28th year here at Center. And it was about 18 years ago that my oldest daughter, Beth, started Center as a student. And so I have been in your seat, literally. It has been a while, but I know what it's like to send your student off to college, and in particular Center, so have fond memories of that time. I want to just give you a brief thumbnail of the Department of Public Safety, and all this information I'm going to be going over with you. I'm going into greater detail with your student tomorrow during 2 orientation sessions that I'm going to be doing with them. And so in those sessions, we give them all the information that we feel that they need to help them have a safe experience here at Center. And so they'll be getting all this tomorrow. The Department of Public Safety does have a director, that's me. We have an assistant director, Barb Hayes, and Barb is going to be out at the services fair after this, so you'll be able to have a chance to meet Barb out there. We do have 7 public safety officers, and we pretty much operate 365 days a year, 7 days a week, all 3 shifts, and so you can always get a hold of someone on duty. Our office is located in the Walnut House, down next to the fraternity and sorority houses towards the railroad tracks. You may have seen it. It has the big C6HO on that, and if you're not aware of what C6HO is, it commemorates our National Football Championship. That's right, we were national football champions in 1921. But take that, UK, they don't have any football champions. And so that commemorates our game against Harvard, who was a football power at the time, and we beat them 6-0. So we slapped that up on a wall to commemorate that. And our office is in there. Students should call the helpline to get a hold of a public safety officer. It's 859-236-HELP, 4357. And so they can call us for a wide variety of things that they need, and they should feel free to call us to get many of the services that we provide. We provide escorts across campus. We jumpstart cars. We unlock buildings for folks, and so anything that they need to contact us, and I'll be telling them to put this in their cell phone tomorrow, they can call the helpline. A little bit about the authority and function of the officers. We are a non-sworn public safety department. We do about everything that your local police department does, except we do not carry weapons and we do not make arrests. We have a very good relationship with the Danville Police Department, and they're just up the street, and they're always here whenever we need them to help us with any situation that we can't handle. And we also have a good working relationship with the fire department and EMS as well, and they're both very close and very helpful. Building security, all of our residence halls are locked 24 hours a day. We do have card access for the students to get into their residence hall. And then our academic buildings, most of them are on timers during the day, and then the students have card access after hours. Talked about the orientation sessions I'll be doing tomorrow and safety escorts. A couple of other things that we do regarding fire safety. We do maintain all the fire extinguishers on campus. We have, I think, 465 fire extinguishers on campus. And the officers go around, we divide them up, and they go around and check those fire extinguishers and make sure they're charged and ready to go. We also do fire drills. We do one in the fall, and we'll probably do that a week or two in the school, let the students kind of settle in, but we don't want to wait too long because we know that a lot of them are new to their buildings, so we want them to be able to find their evacuation route and go through a fire drill. And so then we'll do them again in the spring. We do room inspections of every residence hall room on campus. And typically what we do is we'll inspect those during fall break. And we're looking for any kind of fire safety hazards in those rooms. And then rooms that are in, have things that they need to correct, we give them an opportunity to do that. And then we go in and re-inspect over Thanksgiving break to make sure that those items have been corrected. Parking is one of the fun areas that I get to deal with. And as you've seen today, it's quite a challenge sometimes, especially with our athletic facilities going up and stress on our parking until we get those that facility completed. But the main thing that I would tell you on parking is, and your students, some of them have already been asking, and I'll tell them tomorrow about this, is that I will open up parking registration for the students probably on Friday. I send out a big email, and it has all kinds of instructions on how they should do that. Make sure that if your student brings a car to campus that they register it and get their parking permit. That'll save them a lot of hassles with tickets and everything there. So they'll be getting that information tomorrow. And we don't ticket anybody until they've had an opportunity to get their decal in place. Mass notification system. We do have an emergency mass notification system. And so students are automatically opted into that. And so if your student has a cell phone listed with us, then when we activate our emergency notification system, they'll get a phone call, they'll get a text message, and they'll get an email. And so we rarely have to use that. Most of the time that we've used that is for tornado warnings when we've had those on campus. And so we reserve that emergency notification system for strictly emergencies. So I think that's pretty much about all I had to go over today. I just want to add my welcome to everyone, and we're glad you're here, and we're looking forward to having another great year here. And so at this point, I think I'll turn it over to my colleague Kevin Lamb, so you'll get your daily dose of the Kevins.
And I know you're all wondering, just how many Kevins are there on Center's campus? There are two. Staff, so now you've met both of us. But my name is Kevin Lamb, and I'm an Associate Dean of Admission and Financial Aid here and the Director of Financial Aid. So good afternoon and welcome to Center. I've had the great opportunity to work with many of you through this process. Know that that does not stop now. This is a 4-year process, 4-year proposition, and so we're here to continue to help you in the Office of Financial Aid. And with that, thank you for the trust that you've put into us, into our office specifically. Not only are you trusting the institution and with your child's education, their life, because we're a residential institution, but you've trusted us with a lot of personal information. We take that seriously. We know that it's not just numbers, it's not just an application. That represents a lot about your family. To us, what's important is the relationship. So, life happens. Things can change. Financial aid seems horribly strict and regimented. You know, we deal with those fun things, taxes, federal forms, stuff everybody loves, right? But we know the reality there, and we know that it changes. So know that we are here to help you. We're here to help you if things change. Just reach out, give us a call, shoot us an email. We'll be in touch with you however it works for you, and glad to learn what that is and how we can adapt and change things. There are reasons to do that, there's capacity to do that, and we are more than glad to do it. We can only understand and work with the information that we have. So if there's something that you need to let us know, let us know. And no, in my book, there's only one bad question about financial aid. That's a question that is not asked. Financial aid gets horribly complex and nuanced very quickly. Sorry about that. One of the other things we were here for is to help you translate what all those crazy federal regulations and things are that we have to deal with, to help you out and help you understand that and navigate those processes. We're also here to partner with you about what those processes are and understanding them, navigating changes that I mentioned, and also helping you to grow in your understanding of what the financing options are. That might change year over year, and that's fine. It doesn't all have to be the same. With that, know that in our office and on my team that I'm privileged to work with, you've got a lot of perspectives. You have a current college parent who's in the office as well, going through the financial aid process with their child. That's me. I did this on Saturday. I thought it was really interesting to sit in an audience as a parent because I've done this my whole career. But we also have 2 center parents who between them have graduated 4 students from center. All 4 of us, actually all 5 of us in our office, all use financial aid to go through college. So we know how this goes on multiple levels. So we're here to help you. With that, we are also very close colleagues with the business office, billing and payment plans, and we're always glad to help with those questions. We might not be able to give you the definitive answer there, but if you can't catch somebody in the cashier's office, give us a call. We're glad to help with that as well. As you all know, payments for fall semester were due by, I think it was August 14th. If that hasn't happened yet, not a problem. Just reach out to the business office, let them know what's going on. As a heads up on what's coming, spring term bills will come out the beginning of December. Payments or payment arrangements are due by December 21st with payment plans. A lot of the information talks about 5-month payment plan, but there's a 4-month option as well. That obviously starts just 1 month later and divides things by 4 instead of 5. But these are some of the flexibilities that can be hard to find those details and information. A lot of information is thrown at you. So let us know how we can help you navigate all that. A couple of other things. We're going to be your partners in a very different way this year. And that is learning about the new financial aid process. If you haven't heard, there will be a new FAFSA for 24-25 and a new way that aid is evaluated. We are learning from that from the Department of Education right now. So we are a couple of months ahead of you, but we're working hard for doing that. And I'm again blessed and privileged to work with a great group of professionals. We're some of the ones that a lot of colleagues around the state and the region are looking to help them understand this as well. So we'll go through that together, but what that means on financial aid application timing for next year, it's going to be a little bit later. Many of you filled out the FAFSA between October and December of your child's senior year in high school this last year. Well, this year that FAFSA isn't going to be available until sometime in December. Financial aid officers really aren't really risky people, But we sort of got a pool going when the Department of Ed is going to release that map. We finally got them to say December instead of the fourth quarter. Thanks, that's helpful. But our guesses are somewhere between December 15th and December 31st, because by law, they have to have it up by January 1st. So don't worry as returning students about doing that over Christmas break. What's going to be important for you all is connecting with your students after their first semester in college. There's time to do that. Okay, that time, if you're a Kentucky resident, spoiler, probably do it by February 1st, February 15th. But we're going to be here to help you understand that, figure out what that is. It might be frustrating. Know again that there's some that are already frustrated by it. We won't mention names. Okay, it's the entire financial aid profession. But again, we're going to be partners to help you through that. But bear with us. There are going to be changes. What's important to know is here at Center College, we're studying this and we're looking at it. How can we help in a changing application environment make things as consistent for you as families as possible? Unfortunately, it will be imperfect. Every transition is. But we're going to do our best to maintain that as much as we can for as many people as possible. So I hope from these comments you can see we're real people. We're invested in this too. Again, we're here to help you. Reach out and let us know what we can do at any time. And that there are no bad questions about financial aid unless they're asked. At this point, I will turn it over to my great colleague, Sharon Duncan from our Center for Professional Development.
I should say first that our director, Joy Asher, was planning to be here and she had a family emergency early this morning. So I'm filling in and I'm relying heavily on my notes. So bear with me, but I'm really, really excited to welcome you on behalf of the Center for Career and Professional Development. I'm going to call that CCPD from now on because otherwise it'll take forever. My name is Sharon Duncan and I'm the Associate Director for Internships in the CCPD. I'm excited to tell you about some of the ways we can help your students in their career journey. Starting this fall, Center is offering 6 career exploration communities, or CECs, that are grouped by professional industry. They are arts, media, and entertainment, business and entrepreneurship, science, engineering, and technology, health and medicine, law, government, and policy, and social impact. The key word here is exploration. Students can attend programming within these CECs to learn about a variety of careers. They can join more than one CEC, and they can switch at any time. We're currently registering sophomores, juniors, and seniors. First-year students are welcome to attend programming, but we want them to wait to register until the end of their FYC course when they are more familiar with this program. So what exactly are CECs? Well, they're communities of support. In these communities, students will have access to well-established professionals and industry leaders, including Center alumni. Each CEC has an alumni advisory board and alumni career advocates. These alumni will provide information on skills and experience needed in their respective career fields. And they also serve as speakers and panelists for student events and provide direct support to students through mentoring and networking. Students in these communities will also have their own specialized career coach based on their CEC. We also have a career coach for undecided students. Because most students don't yet have it all figured out, they can also access a quiz online to help determine which CEC they might like to join. In these communities, students will get exclusive access to panels and events specific to their CEC. We will provide streamlined communication for students through CEC-specific email listservs, so hopefully cutting down on some of those barrages of emails that they get. We also have LinkedIn groups, and those will both focus information specific to the CECs. In these groups, students will come together with other students who have shared career interests. And also in these groups, our students will interact with faculty members whose academic expertise can help connect classroom skills and knowledge to the work world. We are very excited about this initiative that brings all members of our community together. As I said, your students can participate in any events now, but we'll be learning more about CECs throughout the term and invited to register later this fall. In addition to the CECs, our office helps students connect with internships and supporting funds. My title is Director of Internships, so it's my jam. We work directly with students to help them locate and apply to summer and academic credit internships. Students must have sophomore standing for spring and fall internships, but they can participate in summer positions at any time. And thanks to generous donors, we are able to offer a competitive and need-based funding program to help offset costs for summer and center term unpaid or low-paid internships. We also have a team of career peer mentors, or CPMs, made up of center students who are trained to provide frontline services to their peers and even host career programs for students in the residence halls. CPMs, career peer mentors, are available during posted walk-in hours in the CCPD. Students need an appointment to meet with a career coach, but the CPMs are available for walk-in or scheduled appointments. I know this is a lot of information, so here are some ways that you can connect with us. Please visit center.edu, the website, to see all of our resources listed under the Career Readiness tab. There you will find lots of great information on exploring careers, finding internships and mentored research opportunities, and finding and applying to postgraduate jobs in grad school. You will also find our calendar of events and information on how to contact us directly. Students can connect with their career coaches using Calendly or Navigate links that are located online to schedule their meetings. We also send weekly e-newsletters and emails about upcoming events. And of course, we're on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. These sites are for parents too, so be sure to give us a like or follow. We really look forward to meeting your students, and I thank you for your time and attention.
How's everybody doing? So good news, we're halfway through. There's only about 10 people after me. I'm kidding. Two more. We're almost there. All right. So I'm Andrea Abrams. I have been at Center College. I'm going my 17th year. I came as a professor of anthropology, and now I'm the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And so I'm here to talk to you about the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. The mission of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion is to promote and sustain a diverse and inclusive learning, living, and working environment in which all members thrive and succeed. So we work with students, staff, and faculty, and we strive to give all members of the community the knowledge and skills to contribute to a more inclusive college and a more just world. Our office collaborates with everyone on campus. That's the President's Office, Academic Affairs, Student Life Office, Athletics, Human Resources, Development, Communications, as we work towards a culture in which everyone can be their authentic selves, where we can learn how to talk and even disagree with empathy and mutual respect, and where a deep sense of belonging is achieved. Part of this work means that we will work to remove barriers, increase accessibility, and remedy harmful discrimination. If your students do come across issues, they are invited to reach out to people in my office or to submit a bias incident report. We have a process to deal with these issues. In order to better support your students, we provide training and workshops to faculty and staff. Each year we try to focus on something different. This year we're focusing on safe space training to better support students who identify as LGBTQ+. We're also doing workshops on neurodiversity in the classroom and trainings on cultural competency and racial harmony. Your first year students can look forward to fun and enriching activities and what we call in our intercultural suite. Hopefully you've seen that. It's a really nice space in the campus center. This is where we celebrate heritage months and identity awareness, where we do community building, game nights. There's a drop the mic night where your students can come in and show off the talent that they have. There's a connecting through storytelling. Many of your students will join affinity groups that we work closely with, and we'll also see them when we come to the dorms, go to the classrooms, or are invited by different student organizations. A thing we're really proud of is in November, we have an event called Building Bridges and Community Day. This is a day where at noon, all offices close, all classes are truncated, so that the entire community comes together for a community lunch. And then the rest of the afternoon is a series of workshops and trainings that are here to create a more inclusive environment where you can learn about diverse experiences and you can build the skills for a more inclusive community. We usually have about 45 sessions that run and about 900 to 1,200 members of the community participate. We do bribe the students with credit for convocation credit, but they come because they love it too. Some of the things that we touch on, we go a little bit more deep on things here. So some of the sessions we've had are going through conflict globally, so they learn personal stories of international students who are coming from places that are experiencing war. We had a session on examining the relationship between gender and banned books. A session called the Harlan Renaissance, Stories of Black Life in Appalachian Coal Mines. A session called Y'all Talk Funny, Linguistic Prejudice. And Reservation Dogs, Indigenous Stories by Indigenous Artists. And then not everything is that heavy. We had a session on how to make your grandma's tamales, yoga in the garden, and K-pop dance sessions. Some of your first year students are New Horizons scholars. The New Horizons program provides a diverse group of students with the opportunity to develop leadership skills, build community, and become fluent in diversity, equity, and inclusion principles. Each cohort of 12 to 15 scholars has an assigned mentor who provides support and guidance for the first and sophomore years of college. When your students are juniors and seniors, they can apply to be an Atkins Scholar. The Atkins Scholars Program supports research or art focused on diversity, inclusion, equity, and social justice. The scholar will work closely with the faculty advisor to propose and implement a project, and they receive funding for travel, books, art materials, and other equipment needed for their research, and they can get up to 6 hours of credit for this. This is a really prestigious program we're very proud of. In the meantime, please encourage your students to drop by one of our porch parties. So we have this a couple times a semester. Our building has a really nice porch on it with rocking chairs. We'll pull out lawn chairs so people can sit on the lawn, and then beach chairs. We'll serve hot dogs or tacos, cotton candy, ice cream. I think we had candy apples the last time. Everybody sends in music for their playlist. And it's just a time for us to engage and do community building the old-fashioned way. So that's a really important part. We want to make sure that students learn what it means to live in a more diverse world, to learn how to be active members of making the college and the larger world a more inclusive place, to understand what social justice is and to be able to be an agent of that. But belonging and community building are also really important parts of that. So we've got a lot of moving pieces that we do in collaboration with other offices on campus to make sure that it happens. So these are different activities that students can participate in, but any day of the week, they are invited to come by the ODI, that's what we call the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and meet with myself and my staff there to make sure that their experience here is one of belonging and thriving. And you as well are invited to reach out and talk with us. And that's all I'll say for now. And I'll pass it on now to Adam Chen-Dedman for the Center for Global Citizenship.
Good afternoon. I want to start briefly by just saying that I am new. My 6th week here at Center College. I've been abroad for the past 25 years, working with American students, like students here at Center College, running programs across Southeast Asia. I was in Japan, Taiwan, Thailand, and I spent the past 4 years in Australia. But I'm originally from Kentucky. So I am a native Kentuckian, as we like to say. I grew up in Lexington. I went to high school here. Left 25 years ago, but it feels good to be back in the Bluegrass. So I'm still learning a lot about the programs that Center offers, but I'm here to say that Center College is a kind of a standard bearer when it comes to liberal arts colleges and education abroad. So I want to just take a few minutes to tell you a bit about what Center does when it comes to study abroad opportunities. But I thought I would begin with a quote from the Kentucky poet, farmer, cultural critic, and environmental activist Wendell Berry. I'm sure many of you are familiar with him. He once said, "Nobody can discover the world for somebody else. Only when we discover it for ourselves does it become common ground and a common bond, and we cease to be alone." And I think that beautifully kind of encapsulates the power of getting outside of our comfort zone, right? Because really, study abroad is not so much about a particular destination, although that can be exciting, but it's really about complicating our perspectives on the world. And I think that Center College does offer many exciting opportunities for that. So I want to just briefly talk to you a bit about those. Afterwards, my colleague Margaret Meadows, who's here with me, she and I will be out in the hallway to talk to you a bit more about programs in detail if you're interested in a particular destination. But usually, the kind of key message I like to sort of transmit to parents is help your student plan early. Study abroad takes a lot of scheduling when it comes to getting all of their courses together. There's financial considerations, there's duration considerations, so they want to go abroad for a short or a longer period of time. Usually freshmen do not go abroad. There is one exception traditionally at Center, which is music tours. So our music program here does accept students, particularly those who are basses and tenors, I've been told. So if your child is, musically adept, they can meet with the chair of the music program. He will be leading a program to Spain in January, and he is actually looking to recruit somewhere between 8 to 12 freshmen, if possible. But apart from that, usually most Center students would go abroad their sophomore or more likely their junior year. It is possible to go abroad in the final year, but usually most students want to be here, particularly in their last semester on campus. So the key is sophomore, junior year. We have exchange programs, so there are a number of programs that we offer with partner universities around the world. Those are typically for a semester, but sometimes they can be for an academic year. We currently offer programs in about 19 countries. So these are all pre-approved programs where credit transfers back into Center. We currently have programs, just to give you an idea, in Ghana, in Ecuador, in the UK, in Strasbourg, France, in Nantes, France, in Merida, Mexico, 2 locations in Japan, several locations throughout the United Kingdom, including Scotland. We also have programs in Northern Ireland, China, Spain, and Germany. Apart from that, apart from study abroad, we also do what's called study away. So we have domestic programs in New York City and in Washington, D.C. Those are largely focused around government and policy in D.C. or around kind of theater and business internships in New York City. So those are all very exciting programs. But apart from the traditional study abroad, where a student would go abroad for an entire semester, a really popular model at Center has been what we call a center term abroad. I think all of you are probably familiar with the center term of 3 weeks in January. Center term, of course, is offered here on campus, but many faculty members do take students abroad during this period. Center students can go abroad during a center term once. They can go abroad during a center term up to 3 times if they would like. In fact, we have a number of students here at Center who have been abroad 3, 4, even 5 times. Now, of course, there's financial considerations there too. We do believe, following in the footsteps of Andrea there, we do believe in equity in trying to help students finance their time abroad. Not every student can necessarily afford to go abroad multiple times. So we have a number of scholarships that we manage. There are also national scholarships like the Gilman and others that you could encourage your child to apply for. But the center term is a really exciting opportunity because every year, Center offers different destinations, different topics. And in November, so this year on November 9th, we will be doing what we call our annual unveiling, where we will invite students to come one evening and to learn about all the programs that will be offered by faculty members in January 2025. So apart from that music program I mentioned, your student would be eligible to go on a center term in 2025. What are the benefits of study abroad? I mean, I feel like it kind of, study abroad markets itself, right? Students oftentimes like to travel, but apart from just the excitement of traveling and of meeting new friends, you know, there are marketable skills, right? It increases potential jobs. It offers a great opportunity to learn a new language, to understand a new culture. And that culture doesn't necessarily have to be something that a student, they might think, well, I never want to live abroad. I don't want to live, you know, or work abroad. But I think that's oftentimes kind of a misnomer when it comes to cross-cultural sort of skill building and what it means to be cross-culturally competent, right? We need cross-culturally and linguistically competent people here in the United States as well. And research shows that students who study abroad and students who learn languages have much higher success rates when it comes to grad school and job applications, particularly in multiple fields, right? It's not just sort of teaching or doing something that has a kind of a foreign language component to it, but a lot of government jobs. There are lots of jobs in IT and many other sort of customer service type jobs where cross-cultural skills and foreign language competency are highly desired. So I just kind of wanted to leave that with you. I think it's also important just to point out that typically if a center student wants to go abroad for a semester, all their financial aid will go with them. Apart from the fees usually do not change from what they would pay anyways at center. With the exception of a $400 processing fee, which is, part of it is a carbon offset. There's also some medical fees that are involved in that for international medical orientation and whatnot. But usually going abroad for a semester should not be greatly different financially than what it would be for their time here at center. The exception, of course, are the center terms. You might be wondering, what does it cost to go abroad on a center term? Well, it depends, but usually, depending on the destination, it would be somewhere between $4,000 and $4,500. Roughly, that includes airfare, 3 weeks of spending time. It includes all the sort of accommodation, food, and whatnot, and their center credit. So if you'd like to know more about kind of the financials or some of the programmatic details, please do come meet myself and Margaret Meadows. We will be outside, like I said. Thank you for listening, and I will turn over the mic to Nancy Katherine Burkey from the Student Life Office. Thank you.
All right, everyone. I will do my best to be brief. In the words of a beloved member of our music faculty here, no one leaves an orchestra concert wishing it was longer. As Adam said, I'm Nancy Katherine Burkey. I'm the Assistant Director for Student Activities here at Center. Your students have the great privilege of having this time in college to learn and discover independently. This means having the freedom to decide how they want to use that time outside of class as well. The Student Life Office encompasses a wide net of student services at Center, including offices you heard from today, as well as civic engagement, residence life and housing, and campus activities. We're here to support your students through challenges and opportunities outside of the classroom. When the light bulb burns out in their room, we're here for them. When they don't know how to ask their roommate how to pick up their laundry off the floor, we, and especially their RAs, are here for them. When they're looking for something fun to do on the weekend or looking for a group of students with similar interests, we're here to guide them towards those opportunities. Our Office of Residence Life and Housing, you probably had some interaction with today. The most interaction our students will have with that office is through selecting their housing year to year and also working with their RAs. Their RAs are not only there to provide safety for the residence hall and their students, but also to be emotional support and do things as mundane as submitting some work orders when things aren't working quite right. Personally as a member of the campus activities team, I believe that having fun is a necessity for students. Amidst academics, athletics, and research, students can really benefit from scheduling time to enjoy themselves. We oversee clubs, Greek life, student activities council, and leadership programming. Our team can be seen hosting a late night event almost every weekend, from trivia nights to silent discos to our annual spring carnival. Campus clubs are student-founded and student-run, and with over 60 to choose from, your student can connect with their peers through similar interests, shared culture or religion, intramural sports, and performing and visual arts, just to name a few. This range of options is available to them for them to find 4 clubs that speak to them, or even just one. Center is also home to 6 fraternities and 5 sororities, and our deferred spring recruitment process allows students to adjust to their new routine while sort of informally getting to know the members of Greek life in our community to see if it's right for them. Another key opportunity for your students is through community engagement, local activism, and service. There are plenty of ways to make a difference. One opportunity is working with our after-school program, where center students are paired with elementary schoolers as mentors and tutors twice per week. The students in our food recovery network use leftover ingredients from our dining hall to make soup for local program Soups on Us. Through service, students can develop a deeper appreciation for their college town and also add meaning to their everyday life as they're working through those long-term academic projects and assignments. With all these opportunities available, my advice is that you encourage your students to do 3 things this fall. 1, ask for help. And yes, you've already been told that today many times. If they don't know where to start, their RA, first-year mentor, or even Ann Young are a really great place to start. Number 2, make sure your students attend our annual activities expo next Thursday, sorry. That's where they're gonna sign up for clubs and get to know local businesses and organizations. 3, encourage your student to try something new. Whether that be a new food, new activity, or even a new study spot, I guarantee they'll learn something from it. Finally, I'd like to thank you for entrusting your students with us. As their on-campus support network, we recognize that they couldn't have made it to this point without you. We do our jobs knowing that you remain a core member of this network. We hope you continue to cheer on your students through these 4 years. And remember that when you can't be in Danville to walk beside them, we will be here with them until you can return to each other again. Thank you.
You just got through about 12 speakers, right? So give yourselves a hand. At least we don't have to go to Walmart again and get a shower caddy. I want to thank our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause. So the director of our family program, Shahad Al-Douri, will be running around with a microphone or passing a microphone for Q&A. And if we don't get a microphone to you, we'll just shout out your question and I'll try to repeat it. And we'll go from there. And just as a reminder, the resource fair in the hallway will have representatives from each of these departments with candy on their tables often and giveaways. And you can have conversations there, especially if it's a topic you don't want to shout out here. So happy to take any questions. Way in the back. Can you shout?
Yeah, I can shout.
Oh, good acoustics in here. I can actually hear you.
Question on tornadoes. So if there are warnings or watches, where do the kids have specific shelter locations or shelter in place?
Absolutely, and the question was about tornado shelters and do the students have that information when we have tornado warnings. And we go over that with the RA staff, And so the RA staff knows, the general rule of thumb is to go to the basement, the lower level. And so there are alternative shelters for those buildings that don't have basements, but the students are well aware of those locations. The RAs go over that in their meetings that they have with them. They have hall meetings with the students and go over all that kind of information with them.
Thank you. Other questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, Ellen. You can see them better than I can. Yes, hi.
I was just wondering, we're out of state, how does this shuttle work, like taking the students to the airport?
So the question is, for out-of-state families, how does the shuttle to the airport work? We have periods in which students will sign up for the shuttle. They pay a fee to Center College for the shuttle. It is a reduced fee. They can also book directly with a driver who's not affiliated with Center. We contract with the service to provide airport time. So they'll receive an email from my office that says, time to sign up for your shuttles for winter break. And then they are assigned a time. They're picked up on campus, and the same for coming home. And then there are other times in the year where students can call the car service themselves and schedule if they want to go someplace, but we leave that up to them. Yes?
Which airport is that?
It depends. The shuttle goes to Lexington and Louisville, so it would just depend on which one. And then if a student needs to get to Cincinnati, that's on their dime probably, because that's a little further afield. That's a couple hours.
Okay.
Other questions? Yeah, I'm sorry, I really can't see because of these lights.
We have
Yes.
help.
Kevin Milby, is there an alert system that parents can sign up for?
There is not. We typically reserve our emergency notification system for members of the campus community. And that's because whenever we have an emergency on campus, we certainly don't want parents rushing to campus, and that happens a lot of times. And so we rely on other means, our website and our communications department and everything to get that word out when we have a situation on campus, but we don't have any service that parents can sign up for.
Another topic, just briefly, as you may be thinking of a question, our dining services, your students, when they eat in a dining hall 3 times a day for 4 years, may say otherwise at times. We had powdered scrambled eggs when I was in college, so I think it's amazing. I just heard we're having a broth bar where you can add things from the salad bar and have your miso, but if your student has any food sensitivities or allergies, there is a nutritionist who you can reach through Parkhurst, our dining services, and they can work directly with your student. Our chef can walk your student through and talk to them about what they can eat if they have, again, food sensitivities or allergies. So know that that's another resource we can talk about today. Other questions? Yes? Mail and packages. Kevin, do you want to address that one? Mail, how students get their mail and packages. Or Nancy, Katherine.
Yes, all of mail and packages, students can just address it to, so if let's say you're sending a letter or a package to your student, you'll put their name and center's address, 600 West Walnut Street in Danville. There's no need for a box number or anything. Our whole office staff at the post office there organizes everything. So your student will have a box number, but you will just put the campus address. They go to the on-campus college post office.
Not the local post office, but our post office.
So are they notified, like by email or something, you have a package, get it?
Yes, for packages, they'll get an email notification that they have one.
If you want to send things to us, that's okay too.
We are accepting care packages. Roseanne, no, I'm just kidding. Not really. To keep. It's been a long day. Other questions? Yes?
Where can the kids go to find out about work study?
Where can students go go to find out about work study? Kevin Lamb.
Come to the financial aid office. But actually, if your students do have work study in their financial aid awards and return their applications, they will get an email on Friday afternoon that tells them where they're positioned. We actually do a sort of a placement service for first-year students. It's going to give them the name of their supervisor, the job title, and where and how to contact the supervisor to set up hours.
Which brought to my mind, encourage your students to check their emails. They really need to start depending on their center.edu email for everything, and it's really a bad impression with their faculty members and others if they've been given some really important information and a student says, well, I don't know. So please encourage them. There were quite a few that maybe didn't know to go to the Roush Center this morning to pick up keys and things like that. And there were some emails about that. So try to encourage them to take that responsibility now.
That's a big one. That's a really, checking the email is something that is, it's a big one. Where students are like, you sent me an email? I'm like, in October? Yeah.
That's a question right here.
Are there on-campus jobs for students who are not work study?
Are there on-campus jobs for students who are not work study is the question.
Yes, we do have a limited number of jobs on campus for non-work study employees. The Expo is the best place to find out about that. The Norton Center is one of the largest employers of non-work study students. For any show that goes on here that their students can get credit for by attending, if they're in the Usher Corps, they're working and getting credit.
We really have time for one more question, and then I'm going to turn things over to Shahed. Yes. Ellen's point.
Well, there's another way in the back, but there was one down here too, I thought.
Blue shirt.
Yes.
Is it first dot, last name, at center?
You know, it depends if students have identical names, the variation might change. The typical formula is first name dot last name at center.edu, but if your name is Mary Smith, there can be variations on that.
One more in the back?
Right?
Yeah, go ahead, one more.
On the email, is there center email
Does the center email go with students when they leave center? Nancy Katherine.
They have access to their college email address for exactly 1 year after they graduate. So they'll have a year to collect all of that information and put it somewhere else if they don't want it to disappear.
One question, thank you. Who do we contact about carrying over dual enrollment credit?
Funny you should ask. We just had that conversation with Registrar Jacob Johnson about that in Academic Affairs just a couple of days ago to try to streamline that process. It has been a pretty clunky process in the past. We're trying to get a little more efficient with that. So I guess I would just say quickly, Registrar's office is where you're going to need to go for that. Jacob Johnson is the registrar and he will help you out figuring out what those equivalencies are and things like that.